You know that feeling, right? That really weird moment when you're talking about something and you just know your phone heard you? Well, today we're going to get into that exact question. Is your phone actually listening to you? Okay, let's just start with this because I think we've all been there. You're just hanging out, talking about getting pizza, not searching for it, not typing a thing, and then boom, a pizza ad shows up on your feed. It's so specific, it's almost magical. And it makes you stop and think, wait a second, how did it know that? And look, if you've thought this, you are definitely not alone. Not by a long shot. A 2019 survey from Consumer Reports found that pretty much half, 49%, of American smartphone owners believe their phone is recording them without their okay. That is a huge number of people convinced something weird is up. So let's first just talk about this feeling itself, that creepy ad feeling. It's this really unsettling, super common experience that's at the very heart of this whole debate. So on one side, you've got the official story, a hard denial. This is Mark Zuckerberg testifying to the US Senate, under oath, no less, saying the whole idea is just a conspiracy theory. The official line from the entire tech industry is a firm, absolute no. But, a denial like that just doesn't sit right with millions of people. For the folks we'll call the believers, the real proof isn't some testimony in Washington. It's in the power of their own experiences, their own stories. And what's so wild is that when you look at all these personal stories, they all kind of follow the same script. It's like a recipe. First, something weird happens. Then you talk about it out loud. Pretty soon after, you see an ad for it online. And the person telling the story always makes sure to say, I never even searched for it. And it all ends with that one feeling. It was so creepy. This pattern makes the story super compelling and really easy to pass on. Here is a perfect example of that template in action. This person doesn't have a baby, wasn't thinking about babies. They just happened to sit next to one at a restaurant. The very next day, their social media is packed with ads for baby stuff. It fits the pattern exactly, right down to that final emotional gut punch. Little bit creepy. And this is really the core of it for believers. At some point, when thousands or maybe even millions of people are telling the exact same kind of story, it stops feeling like a fluke. It builds this kind of shared truth, this powerful feeling of we can't all be imagining this. The sheer number of stories becomes its own evidence.
All right, but for every one of those stories, there's a counter argument. So now let's flip it and look at the skeptics. Their case isn't built on feelings, it's built on cold, hard logic.
This really nails the fundamental divide here. It's like two different ways of knowing the world. The believers have their personal experience. Their evidence is, I know what I saw. The skeptics come at it with technical reasoning. Their evidence is, it just doesn't make logical sense. And the skeptics have some pretty solid points. First, just the computing power needed to listen to and process everyone's conversations all the time, it would be an absolute technical nightmare. Second, it's just bad business. Why waste ad money on some random word you overheard? Third, it would use up a ton of data, so much that tech researchers would have probably spotted it by now. And finally, if a company ever got caught doing this, the legal fallout would be catastrophic. Now, the tone from the skeptics can often be, well, a little dismissive. It's this whole get over your tinfoil hats vibe. The argument is basically that you're just not important enough for some giant corporation to spy on your every word. But here's the thing about calling someone a conspiracy theorist. It usually backfires. It doesn't make them stop and think, maybe I'm wrong. Nope. It just makes them feel attacked and misunderstood. It actually makes them dig their heels in even more, convinced they're onto something big that the experts are just trying to shut down. So you've got these two sides, completely dug in and not budging. But what if they're both kind of missing the point? What if this whole debate is just a distraction from the real surveillance machine humming along right under our noses? This is the big one. This is the question that matters. If our phones aren't listening through the microphone, then how in the world did they know you were talking about pizza? Well, the answer is kind of simpler, but also way more complicated than you probably think. The truth is, they don't need to listen to you. They have so many other ways to know you. They've got cookies tracking you everywhere you go online. They have your search history, your location, every single thing you've ever liked. They know who your friends are and what they're into. They buy and sell profiles of you from data brokers. They have built such a ridiculously detailed picture of you, they can predict what you want. Maybe the friend you were with searched for pizza on their phone an hour later, and the system linked the two of you together. The web of data is so good, it can basically read your mind without ever hearing your voice. And that's the real kicker here. The actual system of tracking and data collection is so enormous, so complicated, and so hidden from us that the idea my phone is listening to me becomes a much simpler, much more believable explanation. The truth is so wild that it feels like a conspiracy, even though it's all happening right out in the open. So this brings us to one last really fascinating idea. What if we're all looking at this the wrong way? What if this isn't about who's right and who's wrong, but about us learning a totally new kind of skill? Maybe we should think about these listening stories differently. Instead of saying they're just wrong, what if they're actually a new form of digital literacy? It's like a group project for all of humanity. We're all telling these stories and sharing these experiences to try and collectively make sense of these giant technological black boxes that, let's be honest, nobody fully understands. And we all live inside this weird paradox every day. The technology is incredibly cool, it's useful, it feels like magic sometimes, but it's also incredibly creepy. Tech companies love to operate right in that gray area, basically betting that the convenience factor will always be just a little bit stronger than our privacy concerns. So in the end, whether the stories are 100% technically accurate almost doesn't matter. They're doing something really important. They are a deeply human response to a system of surveillance that operates on a scale that feels, well, completely inhuman. And that brings us right back to that word, the one that pops up over and over again, creepy. That feeling of creepiness is our emotional alarm system. It's the gut check we get when we accidentally brush up against the invisible walls of these systems and we just sense that a line has been crossed. So I'll leave you with this final thought. In a world where the technology that runs our lives is designed to be a black box we can't see inside, is that gut feeling, that little shiver of creepiness, our most important and maybe our only real guide to what's going on?